Yo, what's going on? It's your boy back again once again. It seems to be working about right. It's your boy Madara back again once again with another chapter review of One Piece, chapter 1077. Should have noticed sooner. I think this chapter really is Oda breaking the fourth wall with us in a myriad of ways in this chapter. I think one with Zoro not realizing that S Hawk and the rest of the Seraphim are based off of Lunarian DNA. Definitely Oda, in my opinion, breaking the fourth wall. Obviously, Zoro should have realized this sooner because I know people around the internet are like, "Oh, Zoro has always been like this." No, he's not. This is a complete out of character moment for Zoro. It's kind of like it's a dichotomy or a duality of character because last chapter he recognizes the super Momi or the dice fruit from S Hawk's kick. He recognizes that's what Das Bones Mr. One did. That's 2 years ago. Yet he doesn't realize that. Well, what is it's been like maybe 10 days since they left Wano. So no, it was about two weeks since they left Wano, and maybe 3 days, so about 17 days since they left Wano. But he doesn't realize that the guy that he just fought and unlocked Conqueror's Haki against, these characters are based off of him. Like, no, that doesn't make any sense. So I definitely think, to me, in my opinion, this is Oda breaking the fourth wall in this chapter in a myriad of ways, and I'll go over each one because, again, the chapter is called "Should Have Noticed Sooner." There's a lot of things that should be happening right now with Luffy and Zoro. The fact that neither of them are using, as we call this space, Advanced Conqueror's Haki or Advanced Conqueror's Coding, or some people call it ACOC for short. The fact that neither of them are using it, which is what they both use to beat Kaido and King respectively, is kind of odd. I feel like Oda is stalling because he wants this to be kept up until Kizaru and Saturn get here. This is kind of a way out for him to kind of have an excuse of why Luffy and Zoro can be tired when these two guys arrive, because they are our strongest hitters amongst the Straw Hat crew. And so I think that's definitely what Oda's going for. And so obviously, and I understand his plight as a writer. How do you keep it suspenseful without having Luffy and Zoro just completely body these two opponents right now by themselves? So honestly, Luffy and Zoro should be able to take care of S Hawk and S Bear by themselves. They shouldn't need any help from Lucci and Kaku. They really shouldn't. We saw how Luffy stunned Lucci with two hits, and then we saw how Zoro easily knocked Kaku while he was in awakened draft form. He knocked Kaku down like it was nothing. It was just armament hockey. So clearly, we already know Zoro and Luffy are above Lucci and Kaku. But I don't want to drone on too long. So let's go ahead and get into it. Opens up with the cover story of Germa 66. This is volume 32. Actually, I think our real problem is Vegapunk. This is between Judge Vinsmoke and Caesar Clown. So the chapter opens up with Sensetamaru on the Fabriophage, which fabrication is what welders do. They put poles together, they put unistruts together and all that stuff. So it's called fabrication. So this is that phase of Egghead. So this is where they fashion everything. So he's telling everybody here, to go on and beat it, because this could be just as bad, if not worse, than Ohara, right? So he's telling them to go ahead and get out of Egghead. We are shown a flashback of Olvia, Robin, and Nico, Olvia, and the rest of them who were on Ohara right before it was bombed, unfortunately. So that's the first part. The second part of this chapter is, again, Luffy, Lucci, Zoro, and Kaku versus S Bear and S Hawk, respectively. Luffy is using Kong Organ. Uh, we see that Lucci is using a new attack called Hand Pistol Yellow Lotus, which seems to be a rapid fire of his hand pistols. Uh, Kaku is using Tempest Kick Slaughter, which seems to be the same Tempest Kick Barrage that he used in Zoro all the way back in his lobby. And Zoro uses his one sword style Shishi Sansan, which unfortunately both Esper and Ashok just kind of dust themselves off, because they're not doing anything. Luffy compares their durability or their defense to that of Kaido, because he's like, how do you guys keep getting up? And then this is when Zoro finally has the epiphany, as I said, where he remembers that he just fought King, who was a Lunarian last arc, and again, I just kind of bring it into question a little bit, because again, you can remember the dice fruit, but you can't remember that you just fought King Wildfire, and so we like to see that there. Shaka gives a little bit of info that actually their test subject from all those years ago was Albert, so his DNA lasted that whole time to the point where they could recreate it in the Seraphim that they have produced today. So Zoro goes off and lists the traits that he saw in King, black wings, white hair, brown skin, and the flames on his back. And then they all, Lucci, Kaku, and Luffy, all yell at Zoro that you should have told us this, or you should have noticed this sooner. So as I said, kind of, I'm not going to call it slimy or say this is just Oda wasting time, because again, the bigger plot is that you, as a writer, you do have to build a certain sense of danger, a certain sense of tension with a Navy admiral and one of the Gorosei coming. This is not a small thing happening. This is literally one of the strongest, as we learned all the way back in Marineford, that the admirals are the strongest fighting force of the Navy of the world government. This is one of the strongest fighters of the world government coming to the island, along with one of the top brass celestial dragons, aka Gorosei members, Saturn. So this is the big event, and obviously, as I said, I think it's Oda more so stalling for time, so that way Luffy and Zoro have somebody to fight, or he can make an excuse that if they get beat, well, they were already gassed fighting S-Hawk and S-Bear. They gas themselves out, because even Zoro apologizes for not noticing sooner. He's like, I could have saved us all. So like stamina. Some translations said strength, but I know in the official viz, he does say stamina. He does say stamina. So after this, we get a shot of Nami attacking S-Shark, and she doesn't like attacking kids. We know that she has a soft spot in her heart for kids, and so she actually closes her eyes as she sends Zeus out to go ahead and shock S-Shark, and it seems like it does damage, but as we know, it doesn't really do anything, because S-Shark gets right up right after that. Brook tells her to watch out, and then we start to get dialogue, talking about in Article of One of Sanji lands. This is clearly Sanji talking about the type of rules he would make of his own island if he was a ruler. What would be what would be allowed against Nami, and what wouldn't be allowed. In this case, nothing would be allowed against Nami. So he that comes in, we see that his eyebrows have switched sides. So now he is in his, if you want to say, awakened state. He's in his awakened Jarmajane state, which we seem to know that is based off of a Lunarian, because Queen alluded to it that humans don't just burst into fire unless they are a Lunarian. Only Lunarians do that. So seemingly Sanji is being confirmed as having Lunarian DNA at this point. And then we go to the third part of the chapter. No, that was the third part. Now we're going to the fourth part of the chapter, which is Lilith, Usopp, Frankie, and Pythagoras versus S Snake. And so we get to see what the bubble gun does. It shoots out a sea stone bubble, apparently, that is able to weaken S Snake. only for a second, because she does get up and kick Franky, and so then Franky go and grabs same bubble and pins it down upon S Snake. But since she's a cute kid, she uses her charm, and Franky accidentally lets go, and then she gets up and kicks him, causing half of his face and body to turn to stone. Then she turns around and winks at Lilith, and Usopp and Sasay think she's cute. That also gives her the opportunity to use the love Mero Mellow on them, which turns both Usopp and Lilith into stone. And then pretty much from this point, they are kind of rendered useless unless something happens or unless someone comes along and saves them. By the end of the chapter, which is part 5, we're going down to the old Devil Fruit basement research lab in the basement floor. We're going down there with Shaka because he did tell Zoro and Luffy that like he thinks he knows where the main body, aka the Stella, is being held at. So he goes down there. Then it's old man Punk himself who asked him, did he bring somebody with him? And then Shaka's like, what? And so then he turns around. That's when he's shot in the head from this seemingly flintlock pistol. He falls to like the floor with seemingly blood or maybe oil coming out, because we know that they're clones. Could be a cybernetic clone. He shot through like his actual head, and then we're just left in shock. CP5 all the way through 8 are in shock as well, because they don't realize who did it. And then that's how the chapter ends, which is on another cliffhanger, Oda style. So as I said, this is a solid chapter. Not really much to like complain about. If I was going to rank it, I'd probably give it a 7 out of 10, above average. But I did have a little bit of a nitpick, with Zoro suddenly forgetting, King. And as I explained, I honestly and obviously think this is because Saturn and Kizaru are coming. We're gonna have to keep these two fresh. But one question I do pose to y'all is that with the Sea Stone bubble, maybe this allows, because we see that she, meaning Lilith, created a weapon that can shoot out these quote unquote bubbles. Is this also what the new Mark III pacifistas do as well? Is it also a Sea Stone shield that they bring out? Because if that's the case, all they have to do is capture each of the Seraphim and hold them in that bubble, and they can't do anything. And those pacifistas are under the orders of Sentomaru. So unless this so-called traitor can actually come out and redirect the order and also has authority higher than Sentomaru or something like that, can they stop these new the new pacifistas or not? Because Sentomaru is able to control them over the like radio. They're not given the same designation as the Seraphim are, which is that you have to be in person in order to directly control a Seraphim. So that'll be it. As I said, it's a solid chapter. It's above average in my opinion, 7 out of 10. But that'll do it for me. Comments, likes, dislikes, whatever type of interaction you guys do, it helps out our channel, gets it growth, gets our content out there. Anyway, you guys have a great day. I will be back for y'all soon. Yo, back again once again, Modder28 with a review for One Piece chapter 1078, Escape Limit. It's my second attempt at recording. I was in the middle of recording and then started to get text and it just took too long, so I just decided to erase it and start back over. So this is take 2. On the cover, this is German Double Six's and Emotionless Excursion, Volume 33. Formation of Neo Mads. We see Judge and Caesar are holding hands while Reiju and Ichiji are walking away sighing, and the other drummer soldiers are actually in celebration of this event, because we know last volume said that they realized the actual issue was is pretty much them being jealous over Vegapunk himself. And so the first part of this chapter is covering is we see Stussy and Jinbei seemingly hunched over, maybe walking through a tight space or maybe even crawling through a tight space, while on the Dendamushi with Sentomaru. Now Sentomaru was saying that his snail was being jammed, or in the Marines were doing it on purpose. But with how Stussy knows this and how she knows they're sending all these warships and how they're treating it worse than what Ohara was, maybe she has a black transponder snail where she can jack into the communications from the Marines, because we know that CP0 was sent to assassinate all 7 Vegapunks. So again, maybe she has a black transponder snail to where she's able to still get information while Sentomaru cannot. So that's how that would make sense. But that's pretty much part 1, is that. And then we have Sentomaru himself telling them that, hey, them meaning all of the workers there who live there, they're like, hey, this is about to be worse than Ohara. Ohara was Buster called, so we know that they wanted CP0 to keep the lab intact, but if worse comes to worse, they might just Buster call the whole island. But the Marines are worried because, unlike Ohara, Egghead has defenses. We know they have the Sea Beast, and beyond the Sea Beast, maybe he also has a laser field that he can deploy into the sea himself. So you never know what type of inventions Vegapunk came up with. But right after that, we go to part 2, which is Franky's group. More than half of Franky's body is turned to stone. Only half his face and his arm are not stone. And I wonder if you have strong enough Haki, can you reverse this effect of her fruit? Because we know that Law was able to turn himself and his crew from being turned into women back into being men. And once he did it, it spread as an antidote to the rest of his crew. So maybe Franky can awaken Haki at this point and do that as well. Which Haki is just your will or your ambition realized, right? So maybe Franky can do that for himself and Lilith and Usopp. Otherwise, one of the people on the same one of the Vegapunks on the same totem pole, or maybe they will have to just go ahead and kill off the actual traitor in order for or knock them out in order for the orders to be turned around. Because we saw that's what happened with Lucci, that even though he was knocked out, Stussy couldn't give a different order. It had to be somebody higher up on the command hierarchy. But again, we see this, and Pythagoras is asking as Snake, hey, who gave you the order to do this? But unfortunately, she does not respond, and she just stomps on him. We see a crunch, and then there's a gigantic explosion. So either stepping on the head caused the explosion, or maybe she shot a laser through her boot, and that's what caused the explosion. And then Franky says, no, wait, hey, stop. So maybe she's going after Lilith next to kill her. We know the order of the Seraphim is not necessarily to kill the Straw Hats, because the S-Hawk and S-Bear were only targeting CP0, which obviously is Lucci, Kaku, and not necessarily Zoro and Luffy. Zoro and Luffy jumped in the way because obviously Zoro said it would leave a bad taste in his mouth if they were killed handcuffed. So next part, which is part 3, is Robin, Atlas, and Chopper. They're flying through the lab. Robin hypothesizes that maybe, let me actually read it, because so while everyone else is busy battling it out, so something could be happening to Vegapunk in the meantime. So basically she's saying, hey, you need to find the real one while all of this is going on. They hear screams and explosions around the lab. So Atlas remembers that they did have a secret lab a long time ago. That's where she's gonna take Robin and Chopper to. So obviously that's the old de- de- Devil Fruit lab that she mentioned a few chapters ago. So part 4 is we go over to Nami, who is holding Edison. Brook is using his Devil Fruit power to go and try and find the real Dr. Vegapunk, while Sanji is standing in front of S-Shark and takes a punch, which seems to be a Fishman karate punch because he does have a Fishman karate stance, though he does not have water in his hand. And Sanji is like, as we know, he's back into his drummer form. He's awakened it all over again. He asked him, what would you know about the power of love? So basically, that's what Sanji is saying is fueling him right now. We could read that as either the love of him taking care of his crewmates or protecting Nami and things of that nature. That's what fuels him. That's what allows him to do what he's doing right now. We know clearly, since he can burst into flames, seemingly Judge somehow, some way got a hold of Lunarian DNA. He gave that to Sanji, but obviously we know Sanji didn't awake his abilities until he got his raid suit. Then we cut over to our next part, which is Zoro, Luffy, Lucci, and Kaku battling it out with S-Bear, but then they realize that S-Hawk has disappeared. And again, as I mentioned in my last review, which I'm going to put together in this review together video, it's kind of weird that, you know, Zoro and Luffy just haven't used Advanced Conquerors already to take care of these guys. I don't know why Oda is stretching this fight out. He's clearly stalling for time and trying to increase tension with the actual trader and the Stella body. That's why he can't have Luffy and Zoro just deal with this right away real quick. Otherwise it breaks all of the tension. Because if this was Kaido, he would have already taken care of this. You know, we wouldn't be going to these. And it's not that the Seraphim aren't strong, but to someone like a Luffy and a Zoro and a Sanji, is like these guys are even though they're claimed to be the highest form of humans and things like that, they are not nearly there yet. They wouldn't pose a real threat to Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, Jinbei in a real fight, in my opinion. I could be wrong, but in my opinion, I don't think that they hold an actual real threat against these guys. And so, anyway, Zoro and them realize S-Hawk is gone, and so Zoro chases after Luffy. Tells Kaku, but he says, Usopp, go and follow him, so that way Zoro doesn't get lost right away. And Kaku runs off, but then he's like, hey, what did you he caught it at the last second that Luffy didn't call him Kaku. He called him Usopp because obviously joke is a long nose. So I do love that callback and how Oda will you use those as moments to kind of break tension, and bring calm to it. But basically right after that, Luffy does a Hawk Gatling. Obviously, as you know, has no effect on them, on the Seraphim, because the flames haven't gone out on their backs yet. And so basically this is when we cut over to the narration of the fact that there was someone who sent a message out to Mary Joie that, hey, Dr. Vegapunk is researching on the poneglyphs. They send out CP5. CP5 doesn't find anything. And they send out CP5 was dispatched first. Then they subsequently sent out CP7 and CP8. And ultimately they sent out CP0 because the agents weren't coming back. So the ships would leave the island. Somehow this trader found a way to destroy, seemingly to destroy the ships, but capture the agents alive. Clearly, I would think with the sea beast that they were able to do this. So, but pretty much the good government get so upset that they fine, we're gonna send not just CP0, but we're also going to send Admiral Kizaru, and we're going to send a one of the 5 stars, aka Saint Saturn Jay Garcia. So that's how they choose to actually do this. Now we do see Doll is in the collage with Saturn Kizaru, but there are 3 other folks, seemingly vice admirals as well, on these Navy ships that we get to actually see. Obviously, these people are probably fodder because vice admirals are not portrayed to be very strong in the One Piece manga, unfortunately. And so they basically tell us that the next day, the day after this day, is going to cause such a commotion that's going to shake the entire One Piece world. So obviously, folks on the internet are theorizing that Luffy's going to punch Saint J just like he punched Saint Charlos, or Kizaru is going to lose, or the Straw Hats are going to get captured. Obviously, I don't think the Straw Hats are going to get captured. Again, they're a Yonko crew. Not that I'm trying to diminish a admiral, but Green Bull did let us know that if Kaido was still large and in charge in Wano, even while being weakened from fighting Luffy and the others, Green Bull would not have showed up. So that tells me all I need to know. That even though I do think admirals are strong, I do think they are a tier below Yonko. Not meaning that they can't fight them. We saw what the Rooftop 5 were able to do against Big Mom and Kaido. And not Kaido. Why did I say Kaido? Big Mom and Kaido, you know, on the roof. But in the actual fight, we saw what happened. They all got beat. So Luffy unlocked advanced, ACOG for short. And we saw that Kid and Killer left the roof to go and fight Big Mom. So that is what we do know. By the end of the chapter, we are revealed that it is York, aka Desire, who is actually the Egghead Island trader. So this is pretty cool. You know, I actually like this because it wasn't someone who I picked. As y'all know, my money was on Shaka. I did not believe. I thought the twist is that he was doing it because it's the most logical thing to do, because he is the logic or the good of Dr. Vegapunk. But Oda, you know, tricked us out again, and it was actually York, Desire. And we know that Lilith did say coming into this arc that the one thing that they have a hard time doing is separating the innate desire of certain traits out of their creations, because we know she made that like giant shark, but even though she only wanted it to hunt, to scare people, it was still trying to eat and kill people, because that's what like sharks do. They're like hunters. So she was like, you can't change that innate desire. And, well, since this is the actual embodiment of Vegapunk's desire in York, it makes sense that she doesn't want to just eat, poop, and sleep, but she wants to be a celestial dragon. Unfortunately for her, we know again that Cypher Pole Zero was sent there to kill all 7 Vegapunks. So she might think she would have been made a celestial dragon. More than likely, they lied to her, and Lucci and the rest would have killed her too if they could have fulfilled their roles. But unfortunately for them, Yonko Luffy is there. So, but like pretty much, that's the end of the chapter. She does look actually sinister. She's squatting down, and saying she said Shaka would have said like same thing, but unfortunately he's dead now. Which to me, I think Shaka knew something was up, because again, he's the one who called Dragon. It was like, hey, I think I'm gonna die soon. He must know something is up. He's the logic. So just like her being the innate desire of Vegapunk, I keep saying logic because that's what what the scan translation would say. But the actual Viz says he's the good. Shaka the good. So he's the good side of Vegapunk. So if she's the ultimate innate desire, he's the ultimate innate good of what Vegapunk would do. So I'm pretty sure Shaka has a backup plan. Pretty sure that could be a fake body of his that he was remote controlling, and the real Shaka might show up later on to thwart her scheme. Uh, this does bring into question, though, how did they not realize Rourke wasn't syncing up to the cloud at the end of the day for 3 months straight? Or maybe she was inputting fake DNA, fake memories, not DNA, but fake thoughts, fake memories onto the cloud to cover her tracks. And as I said, hopefully Shaka sniffed it out, because again, he's the one who called Dragon and was like, hey, I'm gonna die soon. So he seems to be on the ball in that area. So I obviously cannot wait for chapter 1079 so we can continue this. I think after this next chapter there is going to be a break. So what I'm going to try to do is start to make topic videos. Resident Evil 4 remake is coming out on the 24th, which is this week's coming up Friday. So I will be streaming that on the live channel and playing and putting up walkthroughs or playthroughs as I'm going as well. So, like I said, it's just been a great time being a One Piece fan. I'm loving this series. I'm loving this art. To me, Egghead right now is a solid 8.5, if not a 9 out of 10. Simply because it feels like a classic One Piece art. Yes, do I want more crew interaction between the Straw Hats? Of course. But since the cast is so big, and since Oda does have to implement a lot of other characters, I do understand that he can't always give them that anymore. But I'm glad that we don't have character bloat like we had on Wano. Wano was just character throw up, character bloat out the window. So I'm glad that he's kept the crew down to this size, because it's just 7 Megapunks, CP0, which is just 3 of them, so that's 10. Then our 10 Straw Hats, 20, and then the like Seraphim, 24. Comparing that to Wano, which was over like 75 or 80 plus characters in one arc, which is ridiculous. So again, I'm glad that we've kept it chill to this group. I think Sentomaru is 25. Obviously, I do know that Doll and them are all coming, so the arc will expand. But I'm hoping that he wraps up this part nice and neatly, so that way when we do get a bunch of other characters coming in, he's able, okay, he's already tied a bow on this part. Now he can just focus on the conflict between Saint Saturn, Kizaru, and the other Marines. But I'm going to go ahead and end it here. Thank you guys for liking and watching, or disliking, whatever type of interaction you do. It helps the channel, it gets our content out there, gets us more viewers. So thank you. I'll talk to you guys soon.